all the technologies, when they get introduced, become necessity after a period of time. The way people live, the experience they demand to have, and the personalization. We started digital onboarding to allow instant onboarding for clients on our digital app, and then the AI experience to serve a wider segment of the market and provide access to that. Now, this is from one angle, but the opportunities the AI brings to, because more and more people want to use it and the demand for it, due to the lifestyle, the experience that they want, it requires a lot of investments at the back end. And as an investment bank, we have been, and as you see worldwide now, everybody is investing in the, beside the AI, the infrastructure and the power generation requirements. And this is, we have been investing a lot in this area, whether it is in the States, in Europe, or the region. It's the data centers, it's the power generation, and which supports in a way, the public-private. We raise funds from clients and work with the governments to introduce those investments, which supports the growth and a beautiful, more efficient customer experience, which we see it now, but in the near future as well, it will be a must that you cannot do without.
Ian, do you want to just weigh in here?
I'll just add quickly. I mean, David took a lot of what I would have said, straight words out of my mouth. We're a slightly different group in the sense that we're very diversified financial services. We're about to launch a digital bank. I'm talking to him about it. But we also have a 180-year-old life insurance business, so it's almost a tale of two pieces in terms of the complexity of what it takes to deliver the solution. The AI model in a way is easy, but getting the base platform to behave itself so the AI model will work is much harder, particularly with the legacy stuff. But in principle, the two primary things: the cost driver at X factors difference in cost is the one. And the other one that we're also using is the one around, I would make a distinction between financial education and financial advice. We use two different models for both of those pieces. We focus the education piece more in the banking space and the advice piece more in the insurance space. But at this stage, the machine learning tool we built for advice is primarily around goal prioritization. Okay. Across a multitude of goals for consumers, and we pitch it more at intermediaries than we do at the end consumer at the moment, but we think that the model will mature to be able to go to end consumers quite quickly.
Right. Valerie, you want to go?
Yeah, we are a leading financial market infrastructure which is providing settlement and custody services on securities transaction, and on a monthly basis we settle the equivalent of the world GDP, meaning therefore that with the systemic risk that we are potentially creating, we need, of course, to be quite, cautious in using new technology. So we are never the first mover. But having said that, we are starting to use AI first to really improve efficiency, to reduce the cost. And I must say that it's very promising to see how we can augment the delivery of our people as well, and therefore, as you were saying, David, really reduce the cost. But we are also starting now to use AI as a way to see how we can reshape the markets. I think AI is definitely certainly opening opportunities to change the business model, to really go for services which today with the current legacy systems are difficult to do, but are really opening new opportunities, even also on assets which are not necessarily already today in the legacy system. So we do see AI very much not only as a gain in efficiency, but also as a potential disruptor to really again shape the markets of the future.
And what are some of the challenges that you're facing and some of the roadblocks as you start to implement these things?
I mean, clearly, in terms of risks, you have everything related to security. Cybersecurity, of course, is always a very hot topic. I think there is also a need to really, bring our people to accept the change and to really welcome the change and to learn new ways of working. And I believe that really spending enough time on talent, on the upskilling of our people, but also of working with universities, working with the education system to bring the new skills on the working and the working environment is extremely important as well.
Julio, what's it like to roll out an AI product at a central bank?
I should be used it. I got some reports that used to take 7 hours.
Yeah.
I've been made in 20 minutes.
Wow.
So important people with PhD, they have much more time now to think other things. In research management, we're using in some of the portfolio models. I believe we are going to improve projections. And some of the models, the advantage is that you can correlate more easily more factors. So probably your models might be somewhat better. The models are models. So at the end, there is a limit how much one can know about one particular economy. We are humans at the end, so there is a limit how much we can know.
Right.
But besides that, of course, we have seen a big improvement in having better information, better projections, better models, and that is important.
What about challenges?
I believe in economics, which is not an exact science, you have to accept that you cannot know everything. So probably there's a limit how much you can know. The models can pinpoint something a little bit better. They serve to see the consistency of your projections and your expectations, but at the end there is a limit of how much you can know
Right.
about how the people are going to behave.
And getting people to understand that?
Most of the, some people that are only models, they don't understand. They believe that models are the reality.
Yeah, right.
But I believe most of the people understand that.
Just understand it, yeah. Other challenges that have on the other end there? Who would like to? Yeah.
I think one of the challenges is training the AI to actually deliver a meaningful output, because it's an engine, and as you integrate it, it could give you completely nonsense, or it could deliver. So the challenge is how to put it in the right form and shape to deliver a unique experience. In our region, there's not much of a scale, so it's how to deliver a quality service, which has been served before by individuals, and now it's going to AI, and you want them to adapt. So training it to deliver meaningful output is important. Then the talent pool to work on it. There's a very limited talent pool available today, and our experience to adapt the AI and to integrate with OpenAI in our application, for example, took a long time. We're still training to have an access to get the regulators' acceptance for those new services to be provided, to accept some of the mistakes, and to allow them happening so that the industry reach a new level.
Are you building in-house, using a vendor, a mixture of both? So how do you even go about doing this?
We do both.
You do
so
both,
external vendors. But again, the vendors, you have there are quality vendors today, which they are mostly, I would say, in the States, and the local vendors, they need time also to reach the new level, and given the time difference between the Gulf and also the States, takes time sometimes to reach they work at the reverse time, so it's challenging.
AI can't do that. Right.
I would echo some of the points, and maybe also think about it from a perspective where any new technology is successful if it both improves quality and increases efficiency. You gotta get both. It's not either efficiency or quality. You gotta get both. And on the quality side, specifically on the facing the consumer, there's always the questions around hallucinations. Well, what about the model hallucinating or saying things that aren't true? And that's a concern. What's been interesting, I think, for us is we have realized that humans also hallucinate, right? And that humans are impatient, and that humans might lie, and that humans might operate with imperfect information. And so the bar is not zero mistakes, similarly as self-driving cars. The bar is making less mistakes than humans, and that's not zero. That's at least for 7-8% of the time. And so from that perspective, it's more manageable to think about models that are going to be launched and that are going to eventually actually improve upon humans in terms of quality, because the model might have access to more information, to more data. You're not going to be sending somebody from one agent to another agent to another agent, but the answer, the chatbot has the actual information that the customer wants right now, and nobody's have to wait. And then the other risk to your question really ends up being about like mission critical applications, like credit underwriting, for example, starting to use neural networks on credit underwriting, or when you're thinking about collections or fraud. Then obviously, if you are rolling out models too quickly without proof testing them, you might have big risks. So here it pays a lot to be extremely patient, actively compare the quality of your new models with your challenger, with your base case, and be very specific on how you deploy. And this is where, to your second question, your own internal models play a big difference. So yes, you can get an LLM from one of the big techs, but they're never going to be as efficient for financial services or domain expertise as what you can build if you have, in our case, let's say on customer service, the interactions of 100 million customers over 11 years. We have every single call, every single email, every single chat. That's a lot of intelligence that you can fit into a model that ultimately is going to have better applications. So you need a combination of proprietary data, proprietary models, combined with some external data.
Ian, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'll probably just lift it up a level, which is to say, I think a lot of what David talked about is getting your governances right. So what are your guardrails? What are you happy with around where you'll only allow private data? Where you're happy to allow in public data, and just getting your principles clear around what you're comfortable with. And then I think at the use case level, the kind of the back-end use cases are easier. The ones that are driving efficiency, email handling, call handling, whatever, I think are easier. The ones that start to touch the customers, it gets a lot more tricky, and the rigorousness of that testing for me is really critical. And then, so if you unpack the challenges across a portfolio of AI use cases, it's have you got your governances right? Are you happy with your risk and control environment issues? The talent and skills, key issue. Quality of your data, quality of your infrastructure, and then I think there's a whole another layer of questions around. If you think about a funnel of opportunity that you can use AI to solve, how do you prioritize that funnel? We use essentially a value, both a value size and a path to value and time to value combination to do that. And then in an organization like ours, there's also some fairly tricky decisions around what's your model. So we're 30,000 people across 13 countries. We've chosen to go a sort of a hub and spoke model.
Okay.
So essentially there's a central team that works for the CTO that control the ultimate governance as guardrails, and they do a certain amount of the work around how we think about prioritization or whatever. But you lose quite a lot of innovation opportunity. That's all you do. So we have teams that are more sort of closer to the customer interface that deal with some of the easier issues, but they're free to come up with their own use cases, come up with their own innovation. There's a little bit of a question around how much do you democratize this stuff and allow a bit of free-flowing innovation, and how much do you keep in a core? And the final point I'd make is, in our business we have everything from a very new, about to be launched in the next 2 months, digital bank, which has very modern infrastructure, modern data.
Right.
There's a different model to how we do it there versus the 180-year-old life company that's got a whole bunch of issues. So it's not quite a one-size-fits-all situation.
Right. How do you think about evaluating these products? Like you're talking about your core CTO team. How do you think about evaluating these models before you do deploy them? How long does it typically take? Like,
it varies dramatically.
Yeah.
So essentially, we try to do a sort of a top-down evaluation of a cost-benefit analysis and quantum of value to be had, either from an efficiency gain. Is it a 10x? Is it a 1x? Is it a 2x? What is it? And then, what do we roughly think it would take based on what we've seen before from a cost and skills perspective to get that done? And you want to do everything that's value adding ultimately if you can, but the truth of the matter is I think at the moment there's more value adding stuff than you can get to. So you can almost afford to prioritize. In a way it's a bit easier until that funnel gets a bit tighter. So that's certainly how we think about it. And then what we try to do is, sort of very much in I suppose like a tech startup type model is deliver a minimum viable product quickly and test the value proposition of whether those benefits are actually emerging. And if they're not, kill the thing quickly and start something else. So very much a test and learn experimental approach from a bottom-up perspective overlaid with a top-down value estimation kind of model.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I would say I agree with you on the MVP, but what is also very important, at least in our business, is to make sure that we co-create as well with the clients, because given the impact that we have on the financial market, it's important that whatever we bring makes a lot of sense as well for the clients, and also that we bring with us the regulators. We are highly regulated, and it's important as well that soon enough we bring them on site to make sure that they understand also what they are doing, they understand the risks, how we are coping with the risk, how we are coping as well with the algorithm or the model which is behind. And so indeed collaborating with the ecosystem to then bring an MVP and then indeed assess the value of it is definitely the way forward.
You've all brought up two things I want to talk about. One of them is talent, tech talent, but the other, well, just going off of that for a second, is and maybe Julio can weigh here. How is AI sort of impacting the regulatory compliance and the reporting processes that you all deal with day in, day out?
I can talk certainly on the regulatory side, and it is true that we are starting to use AI, for example, on everything related to sanctions management and fraud detection. And I believe that it can really bring a lot of detail, a lot of information. So to some extent, probably we're increasing the quality of the reporting of the investigation that we were able to do in the past. So on one side, I think it is positive for the regulators, but on the other side also they want to make sure that we are using responsibly AI. And so I believe that there is also a learning process on their side to really see how they will assess how responsibly we are indeed managing that.
Did you want to add to that?
No, I have seen some banks trying to enter into compliance, something like that, which is pretty important. They don't want to commit mistakes just because some severe.
Right. The second thing you brought up was tech talent. How hard is it to attract it to your industry? I mean, I hear this from a lot of places, right? From healthcare. How difficult is it, and sort of what's the pitch?
It's the
Well, actually, I could probably give you some. Our journey has been. It started off being almost impossible to actually. We do quite a good job of it today, relatively. So it's one of those things where we've had to learn ourselves. What is that value proposition? I think it's a question. In not so much AI necessarily per se, but in almost sort of modern ways of working and digital innovation and broadly digital tech skills, then it becomes a self-fulfilling flywheel where people actually want to come and work with you. So you can get it right if you create the right ecosystem for that. And quite a lot of challenging use to the kind of people who are attracted by just difficult problems to solve, which is typically true of these kind of tech professionals. But even with that, I think ultimately you're up against some of what's perceived as glamour employers from Google, Amazon, etc., etc. So I think while we do relatively well, it's still a challenge. And in our country, there's an absolute shortage. So we've resorted to setting up a offshore center where we don't outsource it. We actually hire the people, but we hire them in India, and we have a tech hub in Hyderabad. But and then the other thing we do is we collaboratively across the tech industry in the country, we've set up an initiative to actually bring people through an upskilling process and through the Skills Academy to grow the volume of people
Shem.
available.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, same thing actually.
Machine learning models that can do regression, that can build neural networks. There's a much larger talent. And what's interesting now is that all of that knowledge is available for free online anywhere around the world. If you are 16 years old and you spend 6 months going online and learning how to code in some of these applications, you're going to be able to put AI on your LinkedIn and you're going to have all these job offers immediately. The other interesting thing is that in a way AI solves the problem that it creates, because AI is going to massify the access. It might actually be a talent abundance given the benefits that the technology might create.
When you think about your employees more broadly, I mean, how is AI changing what they do? I mean, this morning was listening to an interview where someone was saying, it's just going to be similar to what you're saying. Like, it's going to be about whether you can get a computer to do what it is you want it to do, right? That's going to be the skill.
Absolutely.
So how is this affecting your employees? How are you thinking about upskilling, reskilling?
I think that's something which is very vivid in our company, and we have now rolled out Copilot to the whole staff to really, give them the opportunity to assess what it can do, to break a little bit this fear about, this new technology, the lack of skills, and really, start showing them how they can make their job more interesting. Because with AI, you can really, outsource, if I can say that, a number of routine tasks, and really spend more time really thinking about the outcome of your service. We anticipate to have to change people from jobs, from one job to the other. And you're right, that there will be some people who will never adapt. So there will be people who will not want to learn. But I think we are in financial markets, we are with a relatively high intellectual workforce, and so hopefully intellectual capital, so hopefully they can also adapt and start learning new things.
I think the other thing that happens is if you run a software company, you realize that you always have this list of 15 things that you want to do, and you never get to all of them. You always have to be prioritizing. The marginal cost of the next feature is very high. What this enables is that the marginal cost of the next feature goes down significantly. So suddenly you can create just much more software. The amount of things that you can build that anybody can create increases exponentially. And therefore what happens is, people don't have to spend a lot of time doing the really boring tech migration, paying tech debt, and they can spend a lot of more time building more software that are going to solve more problems for consumers. So it's from that perspective makes it a much more interesting type of opportunity.
I would like to comment that while we encourage people to use AIs, and everybody, whether you tell them or not, everybody, they are using those tools to enhance efficiencies or to advise them on writing a report or highlighting key risk or whatever. I find that sometimes AI, and a lot of times, it limits creativity because it makes people more reliant on the technology, and the response looks very professional and very nice. So automatically they start relying on it and not focusing on the creation. I think AI technology is still limited in terms of creativity and thinking outside the box, because it's based on what people train them to do. And maybe in the near future we'll see that to go to the next level, but yet till that happens, this is an area where it's interesting to see it developing.
We're going to take some questions from the audience in a second, so get your questions ready. I just want to ask one question while we start giving the mic around, and this is one to Julio on the subject of labor. A driver of inflation has been labor shortage.
And how they can have an impact as well on the real economy by joining finance and acquiring the right skills in order to follow this or to contribute to this new type of working. I think it's extremely important, but you really need to start very soon. And we see that in Europe. I'm coming from Europe, and we do see that the financial literacy to invest in capital markets has not been developed soon enough in the education system. So being able to do that and combining that with the new skills that are required to use the new technologies, I think hopefully it can be a good value proposition for our youngsters, combining this innovation with a role which is important for the real economy. So yes, I feel that we have an obligation to really engage with the education system to make sure that they prepare the next generation properly.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that. We adopt a similar approach in the sense that in our market, financial illiteracy is a big thing across Africa generally, and it's probably worse than most parts of the world. So we've taken it on ourselves, and it's intended to set people up with basic life skills, but it's deficient in the financial side. So we've been trying to lobby into the education system to try and get the stuff included in that course content. But that's a broad sort of set of possible answers.
Go ahead.
Hi. My name is Anis. I'm also a global shaper from Tunisia, and I have a digital bank based and focused on the unbanked in Francophone Africa. My question more is on the development of models or using models. How do you approach kind of model proofing so that you're not vendor locked, you don't necessarily depend on choosing one winner in terms of the LLM space, you can plug and play different models for different use cases? And how does that affect the kind of data that you use and also where you store it, especially looking at sort of data sovereignty laws that might exist in different places and might affect the ability to expand more quickly to be more global and not regional? Thanks.
Who wants to take that one?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I think maybe one part of the answer is, at least my perspective, and this might not be too popular, is the actual foundational LLM models eventually get commoditized. And that's why a lot of the big techs are even open sourcing this. They're spending tens of billions of dollars on a model that eventually commoditizes. So I wouldn't spend a lot of the time in there. But I would spend a lot of time thinking about how to use them with your own applications. And because they get commoditized, you don't need to worry about being landlocked, specifically at least on the foundational side of the model. And then so spend most of the time trying to figure out how you use the data to create experiences that are unique for your customer on the front end, and how to gain efficiency on the back end in certain processes like collections, fraud, and compliance, regulatory, really everything that requires certain decisioning. And depending on the impact of that specific model, you might need to be able to go faster or slower. If you're simply testing the location of a button in your app, you could do 15 experiments of those in one day and decide which one is best. If you are testing a new collections approach, you might need to take 6 months with a new model, and you might need to be really testing. So think about the cost of being wrong and kind of the downside versus the upside of that data-specific model application.
There's another question, I believe, in the back. Oh, okay, so there's 3 more. In the interest of time, can you just really quickly, your 2 questions, one after the other, and then you can
Hi. Hi. So, Munir Nakhla, MNT Halan. A question to David. Credit scoring models, application of AI, how helpful, especially for those with no banking history, so behavioral models or no banking data, nothing on the scoring bureaus.
Yeah, so I think a lot of financial services firms, including us, have been using AI/machine learning for a long time before, and really machine learning in the context of regression models. And for those has been very useful really in starting to use alternative data with a lot of behavioral information to build credit profiles. Now, by definition, if somebody is completely unbanked and doesn't work in the informal economy, you have
limited rooms for development. Thank you.
Does anyone want to take that question?
Yeah, I would say incumbents have access to a lot of data, and data is an advantage. And so for the startup to start building a product without the data is hard. But I think what you start seeing in a lot of geographies is again, this infrastructure of open data. And this concept that the data is not owned by the companies, is owned by the user. And therefore you as a user should be able to grab your data and take it wherever you want. And if that is true, then as a startup, you just need the user to passport their data so you can provide a better application.
Online, and enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you.
Thank you.